Trout Poet Press Audio presents Fishing with Hildegard by Desmond Rutherford. Read by the author. Music composed and performed by rblake. Hildegard's Orb and the Trout. My first encounter with Hildegard was in a Michigan swamp. The wet leather, bubbling croak, lathering leopard frogs, cicadas pulled the landscape into a knot. Steam and darkness rose out of the quagmire, pulled by a dray of insects, pulsing low, scraping high. Night trickled till the pop of fireflies consumed me. One hovered close and became an orb. Within, a winnowy, illuminated woman, blue, knotted, radiant, speaking the language of the swamp, pulsing like a firefly, song of the tree frog, eyes of a fly, and a woman's well-deep eyes at once. Everything went void, silent. In the air above me, caddisfly patterns appeared. Then a trout, IMAX theater size, mouthed a fly gingerly. I thought, raise the rod tip skyward, set the hook. Hildegard's orb extinguished. The only sound was vapor leaving my mouth. Trees. These trees reach out in search of their own perfect destiny, to receive interstellar messages or provide respite to birds on their arduous journey through life. They pull from the earth moisture and the music of subterranean insects, who in their industry reciprocate to the sky that which they do in the cold, damp earth. No birds. At a very young age, Hildegard saw things mighty, fantastic, terrible, beautiful, mystifying. She heard the songs of birds or angels, sounds that lit up the orchard with no birds present. A glimpse of the green man or wood sprite must have seemed normal. Young poets can see sounds, taste color, horripilate in the ecstatic presence of nature. She once described with complete accuracy the spotted markings of an unborn mare, to the astonishment of her parents, who looked upon their daughter with different eyes. Once it foaled, and they too could see the mare. The kaleidoscope of senses received by Hildegard terrified her when she learned that no one else saw them, heard them, or felt them. She tucked them away as a young poet might do, feeling like an albatross among weary sailors in a dead calm. Mirror in the bog. The susurrant music of trees lulled me deeper into the moss-festooned forest. Ladybird beetles expose mechanical wings and lift in a deafening machinery of emotion. Earthworms expand and contract in an accordionic progression that, to the mole, is a scraping sandpaper shuffle. Moles know moist, dark movement is best. Avoiding potato bugs is a chess game performed in the dark. Salamanders imitate leaves, and serpentines slither soundlessly through a moss tumble of stones. In the bog, perfectly intact bodies trick time, smirk through an ancient mirror. We pass briefly above, lightly, ever looking forward. Occasionally, snap a selfie by the cypress at twilight. Hummingbird's first flight. Its sharp black needle beak tipped cloudward, thumb-sized, shuddered feathers to appear more like a cloud. It flaxed, fledged, and the wing motors started, lifted, a new helicopter, a fat bumblebee, moving gas-like, slow nudging, a string of beads, a hesitant grip, then airborne again. I feel that way, flying in my dreams, my forearms and hands keeping me afloat. I clutch a branch, just enough to launch again, each rise more steady until leap becomes flight. Carmen Lake haikus. I eat the red meat of 3/4 of a brook trout. The tules bow. Steel clouds move in from the north and east. I might get rained on. In the metal blue night, yellow eyes in my flashlight's beam, a deer sips the lake edge. This black, sulfurous mud is alive. I hear it breathing, waiting for me. A tiny blue butterfly lands on my trout-bloated belly. The yellow-hooded blackbirds wail in the oppressive heat. Blue metal clouds over the mountain lake come towards me, giant mollusks. The first fish caught with my new rod fights heroically. The comic mating ritual of blue-beaked ducks. The laughing female lifts her tail. The fish I thank for feeding my family bites a hole in my fish bag. The earth invites lightning. The trout rise. I consider fishing. A trout in the shallows erupts. Rattled geese flee. The storm is here. Nowhere to go but in the tent to read Blake. I'm going to get drunk. The tempest screams in every corner. I can't fish. The longest roll of thunder I've ever heard. Still, the birds chortle. Burning sage at the campfire, 1,000 prayers to the sky. Descending the mountain, muscles singing pain's delight. I miss my family. Hildegard told me the importance of birds for the human soul. 1. Birds are made of air. Their feathers describe it. Hollow bones resonate, give lift, levity, buoyance. Crow, mockingbirds, and macaws specifically provide needed levity to counter the natural state of heaviness in humans. They are among the messengers. 2. Our natural connection to trees is tied to our soul's affinity to birds. Branches are the antenna to the spirits that inhabit the forest and the breathing nimbus. 3. Heaviness of wood, inflamed, creates lightness, and gas buffers the heaviness of being. 4. But now the trees stretch into the dusk. The trilling birds amplify the roasting orange of the sun's descent. Leap. The leaves of an illuminated manuscript, centuries old, begin to peel back like crisp onion skins. What stares back at us? A millennium span. Yellow ray of light through shards of stained glass. Black jawline pointed to a cloud. A bird's eye swivels. The Black Death taking cartloads of corpses. The departing souls crackle in the gaseous quagmire between worlds. They do not so much extinguish, but arc to charge those of us who stand, breathe in this garden. Sarcastic fringehead. The sarcastic fringehead has the mirthful mouth of a peculiar clown, the eyes of a scientist, and the dress of a jester. It is bristly by nature and will strike Jurassically if you violate its personal space. It is not suited as a spirit animal for those who jump in, marrow deep, to those ilka in heart. But it wears motley so well, I am fooled that it prefers humor over horror. Fisherwoman cloistered. In my shadow-sized depression into the clay, I descend, supine, eyes to the void, to the constellations, to the quiet lizard licking inside my soul. Heart, magnetic north, a small bloom of light in the gloaming of a life now buried. Earth and clods weighed upon my breast, dead to one world, this grave a portal. In the hushed cell, the soil speaks the very first language, Armadillium vulgare, or pillbug, makes a rolling passage in the damp earth. Jerusalem crickets, the Navajo call skull insect, beat a rhythmic mating drum they cannot hear, but feel in their legs the way I feel in this ritual burial. Earthworms accordion their viscous beam through my fingers, born from the viridity of grasses. Their heat pulses through my fingers. Cold clay imprints my knuckles. The earthworm, allworm, moves with the verdant sonic vibrations that bring spring, excite the earth to grow, excites the trout once I lance it upon my hook. The allworm will talk to the trout in its mesmerizing dance, so that the trout must ingest the worm to pass on the pulsing spirit of spring. Then I will hook the trout, absorb the electric green energy of the worm, of the trout. Then I will pass this on through the healing arts, the light of the fisherwoman. Fishing with Hildegard. I fished with Hildegard in July in a small creek that fed into Lake Metamora. We took pieces of spongy white bread and formed a marble-sized ball around a fishhook. We tied the hook to a string and the string to a white birch stick. The fish did not think too much of our bait. They sneered at us, as only a sunfish could sneer, darting like pinballs in their mossy creek. The crawdads, however, thought that our saintly bread balls were a delicacy and gripped them eagerly in their dwarf lobster claws. We pulled them from the water. They looked pleased to see us, as though they were waiting for us. Hildegard picked up the crawdad with her slender fingers. The crawdad spread its calipeds to the sky. She often said words like calipeds. With claws outstretched, the compound eyes of the crawdad surveyed Hildegard and the blackberry brambles that bearded the shore of the lake. And so Hildegard began to sing. Who are you, armored nimbus, calipeds spread like a victor at the Olympics? We are but strangers here upon this precious earth. You spread your arms exultant, though I have you in my grasp. You are divine, dressed in armored robes. You show us bliss in anima. She kissed the crawdad and gently returned it to the mossy creek. Scivia salvilinus fantinalis know the ways of brook trout. The great boulders take the river. The river tips, punches the rocks. Shouldered and punctuated, the boulders knuckle the water around an eel's back. Hildegard hovers in a golden orb. Salters released to the spray. Tails flash, hatches emerge at calm swills. My line unfurls to the edge of the hatch. In the duration of a quarter note, a brookie mouthed the nymph. In a flash, rod tip pointed up to Hildegard, hook set. The trout dove to the weed bed, rod tip bent like a swan's neck, nipping mites. I calculate the weight by its base pulse on my line. Primal throb, barely a pound, but bold and bright. In the breath that follows a stripping of the line, it broke, a nimbus hovering over the current, the face of resistance. Hook unleashed, the untethered trout reconnects to a different part of the river, recedes to a calmer nook for a moment. The Green Man. From my first wander into the woods, I knew there was a green man, where light flickers through leaves, ferns nod and fan along a brook's trickle. When glimpsed, he turns sideways, disappears. A hummingbird plucks a psaltery to cover his stealthy escape. Within a frog throttle, he winks into coarse, papery grass. Narcissus flowers bow as the green man passes. I cast my line, and a caddisfly curls like a lover's tongue. I catch a quick glimpse of the half-tree, half-man, before the trout takes the fly, and all is fish, muscle, water, finesse. A wee dance the green man lives for, always near, forever alone. Resurrection of the earthworm. Per Hildegard's instruction, I lanced the earthworm, efficiently, but gingerly enough to keep her alive. Take fresh river clay, create an angler's sepulchre pressed into my palm. Gently cast with a loping toss to keep the worm entombed. Slow click the reel lock, slight slack left in the line. The stream's steady current dissolves the funereal blanket, creating a swirling river banshee of particulate slip in the flexing eddies. The emerging, twisting worm sings to a passing trout, who strikes with ancient instinct, pulls the writhing life to itself. I follow with ancestral reflex and draw toward me a fresh pulse into my heart. Take this quick life. I like to watch. I saw you making love to that flower. You circled 3 times, drunk on the smell, petals shimmering in the syrupy light. The small fanning of your paper wings, the flower barely felt you land, then teetered with your weight. I saw the gold growing on your busy hind legs. You emerged in slow motion, and the flower became buoyant. I held my breath in the silence of your ascent. Groove. These shards of stone thrust into the earth by gods or humans, they're the same at this gravity of bloodlust. A serene surrender to to the brief span, a wild circular dance to make a groove before clocks can count. A moment of spinning lifts us while we've got the time. Buried in the stars, where did you go in that stony cairn? You were the feast, dressed in heather, drunk on the scent of flowers. Wood thwapped against wood, reed twills, the fading light. We didn't mind, but danced as though we too would meet you later. Thronged in the heat of stars, the smell of lichen replaces thought. We're there before the dance is over. Hildegard finds a blackbird. The day was golden, the sky sapphire. A shadow crossed her path, the winged wheeze of a passing blackbird. It dropped in mid-flight and fell into the undergrowth. Hildegard lifted the bird, its body softly quaking. She looked into the bird's eyes. She saw waves of what the bird saw. She saw her first flight, landing on a birch log at the edge of a swamp. Orange dragonflies drawing aerial geometry. Cicadas winding a tight clock. She pulled a bug out of the birch bark. A frog stirred the surface of the green water. Then the picture changed, and she saw the bird's first clutch of young, landing on a blossoming blackberry bramble. A falcon fell like a dark angel, and to her horror, snatched the chick and flew off. Her body quaked as she held Hildegard's gaze. Now it was morning, and the blackbird dipped her beak into a finger trickle of cool water, worried a wee slug from under a blue stone, flew above the forest canopy to see the curve of the earth. She felt lighter as she traveled, slowly coming closer to the land below, and she saw, near a bend in the river, a small woman radiant in the verdant grasses. She no longer knew how to fly, and fell close to the woman who picked her up, and now gently returning her to rich black earth.